bum things. Which side do you want me?
Thank you. All right, well, we'll get underway and welcome tournament host and founder, Mr. Jack Nicklaus, to the interview room here at your venue, Murfield Village. It's always fun to be here with you.
Thanks, Mark.
At this time of the year. May the 27th is a pretty significant day in this tournament in history. It's today, obviously, but it was the first round of the 1976 tournament on May the 27th. And also, it was also the day 2 years before that when you played with Tom Weiskopf at the dedication.
Well, you really went back deep to find that stuff, didn't you?
I did go deep because it's a significant day.
I'll bet you got that from Scott Tolley.
I got it from Scott Tolley, Tom Sprout, everyone. So it was good stuff. But I just feel it's significant. You know, this is the 50th playing of this event. I would say, how does that make you feel, knowing that
old?
But the sense of accomplishment that you have to see where this tournament is today.
Well, you know, we started it. So I was, 35 years old when or 36 years old, 76, yeah. 36 years old when we played the first tournament. It took 10 years to get there. We started the idea of the tournament and bringing golf to Columbus in 1966 in Augusta. And so it took us 10 years to get the golf course built, financed, and move forward. And of course, a lot of help from a lot of people, and particularly Joe Dye from the tour. Joe Dye was head commissioner, and Joe came out here and walked in the mud with me. And I don't know that you all realize, but we ended up, to get the date we got, we ended up having to do 2 years of, I don't know what you call it, serving, whatever you want to call it, in Cincinnati. We had 2 years of Kings Island was our forerunner of the Memorial Tournament. You didn't know that, probably. Yeah. Well, he says, if you want the date you want, which is what that date, that's a prime date on the tour. He says you're gonna have to pay your dues someplace else. Pay my dues. That's it. Pay my dues someplace else. So we had Cincinnati for 2 years. I think they maybe had that tournament again then for another 2 or 3 years, whatever it was. But we had that. Then we got the date, which was around Memorial Day. Walking with Joe out here, walking through the mud, frankly, which is what it was when we first got here. We're trying to figure out what kind of a concept we wanted for the tournament. And Joe came up with the idea he says, it's Memorial Day. He says, and around Memorial time, he says, why don't we honor the past people who have contributed to the game of golf in the past? And I said, fantastic. And I said, I think that's great. I said, no, I don't want to be selecting those people. I said, I don't think that's the right way to do that. He says, well, he says, I have another idea. I said, what's that, Joe? And he says, I think we ought to get a group of people of golfing statesmen, which we'll call the Captain's Club. And that Captain's Club will be the guiding light and take the pressure off of you and off your shoulders. I said, that's a good idea too. And I said that means then they'll select the honoree, they'll do the exemptions, they'll perpetuate their membership, and they'll be your guiding light. And of course, one of the first captains we had was Cliff Roberts. And of course, Cliff Roberts said, Jack, he says, you've got an opportunity to do here in 10 years what it's taken us 40 to do at Augusta. And he says, and my books are open to you. He says, whatever you want to know and whatever we can do to help you, it's open. I haven't had that many offers from many places like that, not particularly from Cliff Roberts. And of course, then Bob Jones was our first honoree. And of course, our first Captain's Cup, I can't remember who all was a Captain's Cup, but Byron Nelson, Gene Sarazen, Cliff Roberts, Chick Evans, I can't think who all there were, but I don't even remember how many people there were in the Captain's Club. Joe was one of them, and But anyway, that captain's club was our guiding light and started us in the tournament. And I, for the life of me, can't think of what your question was, Mark.
No, it's just the significance of how it makes you feel.
Oh, yeah, what makes me feel, yeah. Well, I mean, you look back on what happened and where it went and how it started from a very, very small, humble beginning, and how that it's grown through, and the whole idea of the Memorial Tournament was to bring golf back to Columbus, Ohio, a place where I grew up, to thank the people in Central Ohio for the support they gave me through all my career. And that was the whole reason for bringing it back. Charity became a part of that, although back in those days, charity was a very small part of tournaments. I mean, tournaments gave, a couple $1,000s to charity in those days. That was pretty big, to be able to give anything. And that's gone to where you see tournaments now. Good gracious, is Valero the highest on the tour?
It's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I went down to Valero earlier this year. What, they get 27,000, something, 27 million?
Yes, I think annually it's about
What was it, Scott?
28.
28 million this year. I mean, what a number. We're not that here, but but we're doing what we can do. We've supported Nationwide Children's Hospital from day one. It's been a big part of this tournament. I don't know if you remember, but the girls the Twigs used to work in this golf tournament, where the girls that came in and were the volunteers, and they were paid an hourly wage, and their hourly wage was a donation to the hospital. I mean, it was unbelievable how these things happened and went. But the growth of that, or to see that what we've got now, what have we got, 33,000, 3,500 volunteers. We've got great coverage. We've got great sponsor in Workday. We've got a great field, an elevated field. We've got a purse of what are we, $20 million purse? I mean, we were 20,000 maybe then. Maybe been a little bit more than that, but not a whole lot more. Maybe 20,000 may have been first prize then. But hey, we've come a long way, baby.
And just before we take questions, I'd just like your comments on you honor a special person every year, and this year it's a very, very special person in Barbara.
Well, a special person to me. It's and so you understand how that came about. My son Gary came to me, I don't know, a couple months before the tournament, and he said, "Dad, have you ever thought about honoring Mom?" I said, "No, really hadn't entered my mind, Gary." I said, "But you're absolutely right." He says, "She's been as much a part of this tournament as I have. From day one, she's been the guiding light for good common sense and good judgment, and the tour wives have all been looked up to Barbara and where she's gone and what she's done, and the people that have come into this tournament, many have come here because of Barbara." I said, "So Joe," so I called Joe Dye. Joe Dye. No, I didn't call Joe Dye. I couldn't call him. I called Charlie Meacham, and I told Charlie, and I said, "Charlie," I said, "it's been suggested." And he says, "What do you think?" He says, "God," he says, "I hadn't thought about that either," but he says, "You're absolutely right." And so he called me back the next day. He says, "I canvassed the Captain's Club." He says, "Boy, unanimous." And I said, so when I got I had the honor to be able to announce that, when on television, I couldn't get it out. But Barbara's meant obviously to the tournament, what she obviously meant to me and our family, and it's a very, 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 very special year.
Absolutely. Well, it's wonderful. We'll take some questions. If you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll get you a microphone, and we'll start with
Rob.
Jack, 50th tournament, a lot of memories. What memories stand out? I know it's a lot.
Come on. What memories stand out? They all stand out.
Azingers, anything specific? Azingers, bunker shot?
I look at the thing. The first year, Roger Maltby hit a stake, at the 17th green, and I think that kept him in the playoff, and he won. I think we had a 3-hole playoff that first year with he and Hale Irwin. Him and Hale Irwin, excuse me. and corrected my own self, Barbara. And that was pretty special. Then Roger was celebrated so much he left his check down, and I don't know what bar he was in town, but he left his check there, and I think he got it back though. Then the second year I won, and unfortunately we couldn't finish it on Sunday. We had bad weather. And I finished it on Monday morning, and won that. And I've always felt that was probably the most difficult tournament that I'd ever won, hardest, because of what I did as it relates to the tournament. I was out picking up papers all the time, stuffing them in I don't remember who was caddying for me. Probably Angela was probably caddying for me at the time. I don't know. And stuffing them in his pockets and checking stakes in the ground. And if I saw something here, I wrote it down. And Barbara would come in with her checklist at night. I saw this out there, that, bap, 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 bap. So we go through that. We get that, try to get fixed the next day. I mean, these were things we did in the early years. And, it's, this year I went around the golf course and I saw the superintendent, Chad, and I said, golf course is perfect. I don't have a comment. Not a comment on the golf course. Pretty good. And so, and the golf course is really good. But, the early years, we didn't know. I mean, I remember Ed Etchels was our superintendent. I remember it was a 79 that Watson won. Is that correct? And that's the year that Ed was more about making sure that nobody could play the golf course and had the greens get as fast. He got the greens over 17 on Sunday. I think I shot 79 in the last round, picked up places on the field. But I mean, it was, I finally got to Ed. I said, Ed, it's not about us. It's about the tournament. He says, I don't care what they shoot on the golf course. I want a fair, honest test of golf. And I said, not something for somebody's ego. I said, I think that, I just left the locker room and the comments that come in the locker room, one of the fellows I just talked to, they said the golf course is fair, it's fun, it's difficult. He says it's the way it should be. And that's basically what I want. I want people to tell me that we've got a good stern test of golf, and one that's going to produce a great champion. And I don't think this answers your question, Rob, but that's what we're trying to produce. And sure, Azinger's shot was a fantastic shot. Tom Watson winning again was fantastic. I hit it out of bounds in '84 on 17th hole and still ended up tying and getting in a playoff and then beating Andy Bean in a playoff. All those were special moments. I mean, the way these guys have played. I mean, Scotty as your winner, defending champion. I mean, he's been fantastic. He's been the star of the tour, and I just talked to him in the locker room here just a minute ago. And he's delighted to have him back to be here to compete. So many things I couldn't pick. It'd be hard to pick one thing out.
Let's go to Joe down the front.
It's a little bit like asking somebody about their favorite child. Do you have a favorite hole after working on this place for 50 years?
Well, you ask me about golf courses, I give you that answer. But I try not to. I always felt a golf course should be a blend, and sometimes you maybe have a hole that's, you maybe go not real difficult at the first hole, which is not particularly. Our first hole is not extremely difficult, and then you maybe progress a little bit, and then you maybe go a little easier, then a little tougher. You try to get a balance within the golf course and I love short par fours. I think 3 is a great little short par 4, and I think 14 is a great little short par 4. I always thought they're the most fun holes to play because anybody can play them. You don't have to be long. You know, you have an option to do things. I mean, you can actually drive the ball at 3. I don't like to see people drive it at 3, but they can. And they can drive it at 14. They can do that. It's there if you want to do it, if you want to try. I think our par 5s are probably, only because I don't own the homes behind the tees, because I can't go back. They're on the shortish side, but they are what they are, and they produce a lot of birdies, and they're good. I think our par 3s are a nice balance. But you know, I suppose if there's one hole on the golf course you'd ask, I'd probably say 14. Yeah, I think 14. I think 14 is a really it's a challenging hole. It's an easy hole. It's a dangerous hole. It's a pretty hole. It's got all the elements in there that you could want. I've made 3 3s on that hole, or 3 2s on that hole. And I don't know any other hole that I've holed 3 shots from off the green on to make 2s anywhere in the world. But none of them during the tournament, of course. One at a Pro-Am playing with Gerald Ford.
Hope he was impressed.
He thought it was a good shot.
I bet he did. Up in the middle on the right there.
Jack, speaking of stern tests of golf, where do you rank Oakmont as a U.S. Open venue, and is there one moment that you hold on to, aside from winning, of course, in '62?
Well, I think it's a spectacular place to win your first tournament. I'm being facetious that a little bit. No, I like Oakmont a lot. Oakmont's a very stern test. It's a tough test. They've had the same spring we've had. So you're going to find Oakmont very much similar conditions to what we have here. You're going to find the fairways a little softish. You're going to find the rough very deep. And you're going to find the greens very firm, which is you're going to find the same conditions here. But Oakmont's a really, it's a really stern test of golf.
Is there one moment that you remember?
At Oakmont?
Yeah.
I won. I remember that. That was only, that was just like yesterday. What was that? 63 years ago?
I wasn't born.
No, I know that. 63 years ago. Well, I think that, you know, I played with Arnold the first 2 rounds. I can't remember. I think Arnold was, I don't know, like 140, maybe I was 142, something like that. I don't remember. And then we played 36 holes the last day. And I do remember the 17th hole, that short par 4. I drove it into the bunker on the right, and then hit it out on the fringe, and played a poor chip past the hole about 5 feet. And I made this downhill slider that hadn't gone in the hole, but had gone off the greens. And Bobby Jones wrote me a note. He says, I came right out of my chair when you hit that putt, which obviously he couldn't. But that was that was the one sort of remark I remember about that. Of course, Arnold was very gracious. He was the favorite. It was his hometown. And I remember, you get a kick out of this, I remember him coming over to me. There's a picture of Arnold walking over to me while we were warming up. And he was talking to me. And he said, Jack, he says, you know, he said that the purse today from the gate from the playoff goes to the champion, to the winner. And he says, well, would you like to split it? I said, Art, I said, it wouldn't be fair to you. I said, you know, I'm just here. I said, I may play well, but I said, it's not fair to you. I said, we probably just should play for it, because I assumed that he would probably win. And, well, of course, I won. I got the gate, $1,400. And, but anyway, Arnold was very gracious. Could have been nicer. And, yeah. I love Oakmont. I think it's a great place.
Let's go to Dylan in the middle.
I know you spoke with Rory McIlroy in advance of the Masters, and then you predicted that he would win successfully. I was wondering if you got a chance to watch that roller coaster final round, and maybe what you saw that made you think he would win, and what the experience was like watching it.
Well, I didn't know whether he was going to win or not. I think, after the Masters, I dropped him a note and told him, I said, I don't think anybody's won by had four double bogeys. And I said, that just showed me how much talent you have to overcome that to win, and how you played some unbelievably spectacular shots, such as the iron at 7 that he hit over the tree, that actually hit the tree. And the shot he hit at the phenomenal iron he hit at 15, the shot he hit at 17. And then, of course, had to miss that little short putt at 18 hitting a pitch out on a second shot with a wedge. Not very good. But, he played some bad shots. He played the shot he hit at 13. I can't believe. Anyway, I was very happy for him. And it was a great win. And it really got the monkey off his back. And to me, the monkey was not the Grand Slam. The monkey was the Masters. The Grand Slam was a product of winning the Masters. And if you ask him which was more important, I think he would have to say the Masters, but because it was.
I'm curious if there's a moment that you remember from your career where the expectation or the pressure felt the greatest, whether it was, from within you or externally.
Not really. I never really. The only time that I put pressure on myself, and probably not really the right thing to do, was that in my after I won the Masters in 63, 4, and 6, or 63, 5, and 6. I can't even remember the years I won. Anyway, 63, 5, and 6, I sort of felt like I should win it every year, and I felt like if I didn't win it, my year was a failure. And I went through 3 or 4 years of that before I realized that, hey, you're not going to win this tournament every year, and the year has got a lot of other golf tournaments in it, and a lot more majors to play in, and you can't let one tournament ruin your year. That was the pressure I put on myself, and sometimes it made it so that I had a hard time playing at Augusta. Once I figured out that was not necessarily the case, then I got better at it.
Dave in the middle.
Jack, over 50 playings of this event, that this tournament has become very special to a lot of different people, and I wanted to hear from you why it's special to you.
Why it's special to me? Well, I think I went through a lot of that earlier, Shed, but the Masters, the Masters. We're at the Memorial Tournament this week. Is that the name of our tournament this week?
Yes, sir.
And it's presented by Workday.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's special to me because we started from nothing. We started with an idea. We came out and started looking at property, found the property that I had known as a kid, developed it into a golf course. Got the city of Columbus to bring us water past the city of Dublin, and then we fed city and sewer and water back to Dublin. We've been a catalyst to grow this whole northwestern side of Franklin County. The business that has come into the Dublin area largely because of what we did here. There's so many things that have happened because of what happened here. Not just the golf tournament. The golf tournament's been great. It's grown. I mean, it's grown in stature. It's grown in the eyes of the golfing world and the players. The players love to come here and play. It's like, hey, can we get in? How can we get in? I mean, I don't know how many of the young kids that were on the borderline wrote me notes. I guess I don't have anything to do with the exemptions. But, that's one of the things I did, make sure that went to the Captain's Club and not to me. And so, but I mean, the things that have happened. And then to honor Barbara this year, I mean, that's really obviously extra special. But all the things that have happened have been certainly on the positive. It's been it's been a huge part of the PGA Tour.
Absolutely.
And it's, we didn't design this golf course or golf tournament to be a major championship. That was not our goal. Our goal was to do a tournament and be a service to the game of golf. And whatever we could do to help grow the game and further the game, and particularly in Central Ohio, that's what we wanted to do.
Doug, you want to go next?
Two things, Jack. I wanted to circle back on Rory. Did you have an inkling he wasn't going to play, and did you ever have a conversation with him on why?
I didn't have a conversation with him. No,
Did that surprise you?
a little bit.
Okay. Oh, I was
You
going
wanna go again?
I was going to go off the rails on this one here, but you mentioned a little bit ago about Oakmont, that you thought Arnold was at 140 and you were at 142.
I don't remember.
I'm not going to
I don't
fact
remember that
check
was
you.
right or not, but
I promise you that.
is
But
that correct?
I don't know. I'll find out and let you know. But
Okay.
what struck me is that players
And
from
I shot 69. I shot 69, 72 the next 2 rounds.
players from your generation always speak in those numbers. Today they would be saying Arnold was at even and I was at 2 over. Everything is always over and under, and it seems like Arnold once said, doesn't 280 always win the U.S. Open? At what point did we get away from numbers like making a 2 3 times instead of an eagle and start saying over and under?
Well, I don't know how to answer that question, Doug, but to me, even par was always a great score at a U.S. Open. And why was it a great score? Because I go back to the days of Joe Dye. I thought that Joe Dye did just a magnificent job of setting up first of all, he set up the juniors, okay? He set the juniors with a modest rough and semi-narrow fairways and firm greens. He would then go to the amateur, and we had little narrower fairways, a little bit more rough and the firm greens. You go to the U.S. Open, we had the deeper rough, the width of fairways that he felt like was fair, but the right width, and the greens firm. I love those kind of setups, and those setups were all designed to have par be fairly precious. Now, today, I think that I think that the USGA and the R&A both allowed the golf ball to get away from them in 1995 when we went to a composite golf ball. I've said that many times, and as a result, we now have holes that are becoming drivable and never. I mean, the third hole at Augusta. I mean, whoever dreamed you were going to be driving the ball on the green at the third hole at Augusta? You're going to have to stand on the green and wave the guys behind you through the hit. I mean, come on. I mean, the golf ball goes too far. Has gone too far for a while. Then they continue to lengthen things. But to me, lengthening only does a couple of things. One, it takes longer to play. It costs more money. The whole thing, it just gets expensive. So, the game has gotten to where all of a sudden it was 4 or 5 under par, then 10 under par, then 15 under par. Personally, I never liked that. I always, and I hate to use the example of Hartford, but you've heard me use it before. And Hartford is a nice tournament, and people were very nice, but it used to be played at Wethersfield, and I never played because I didn't like the scores. And finally they said, Jack, you need to play. I've never played. I'll go play. I think you're right. I got to try to go places that I haven't been. I went there. So I went to Wethersfield, and I shot 68 the first round. I was in 17th place. I shot 67 the second round. I was in 25th place. I shot 67 the third round. I was in 35th place. I finished with 67 and finished 42nd. That's why I didn't go to Wethersfield. Okay. Now, it had nothing to do with Wethersfield. It was a nice golf course. It's a very nice golf. I just didn't like the putter being what. I've never believed that the putter should dictate what the golf game is. I believe that a putt. See, I don't believe that I never believed in the thing you drive for show and putt for dough. I always believe that the part of the game is being able to get the ball to the green, on the green, and if you make some putts, that's part of it. It's not that the putter has to dominate. Sure, some guys are better putters, some guys are better hitters of the ball, but it's the combination. And when it becomes a putting contest, that's where I wanted to get out of it. Even though I was a good putter, I just didn't like it being a putting contest. I always thought that what Joe Dye did in setting up the U.S. Opens, where, you know, we went to the Oakmonts, or we went to, let's see, we went to Brookline the next year, then we went to Congressional, then we went to Belle Reve. All those required are just a couple under par type scores, not very much under par. And par was a precious thing. Is it probably, do people probably like birdies? Yeah, I can understand that. We got a lot of tournaments we make birdies. Let's have some we don't have to make so many birdies. That's just sort of the way I look at it. And I mean, we've had conditions here. Tom Lehman shot 467s here. That's a pretty low score. That's what, 18 under par. That's or no, it's 20 under par. Yeah, I mean yeah, 268. That's 20 under par. That's a low score on this golf course. But I didn't mind that because the conditions dictated that. I mean, our rough was plenty deep that week. We had a little bit of rain, but not a terrible amount, and the greens just were perfect for holding a golf ball. So it allowed you to shoot a low score. I have no problem with shooting a low score when the conditions allow that to happen. What I don't like to is artificially see a golf course take it to the level where you play good shots and you get bad results. So there's a fairness, and there's a right and there's a wrong about how good golf needs to be played to get a good result. And it's always a little bit on the edge, and I always like to stay a little bit on that edge, because I think it really produces really good golf. And frankly, I always thought that's what a golf tournament was all about. That guy's going to play the best golf that week.
All right, we'll come over to the right here, just behind Rob, and then we'll come over to you, Lauren.
You mentioned earlier growing up here and knowing the area so well. What has it meant for you throughout the history of this tournament, throughout your playing career, to be someone in Columbus, at Ohio State, just in the area as a whole, that's a role model to a lot of people, that a lot of people look up to, and what's it mean to give back to those people?
Well, you know, I feel very blessed that the people have allowed us to do that. The city of Columbus has embraced this golf tournament. The city of Dublin has embraced this golf tournament. Central Ohio has embraced it. Ohio has embraced it. The PGA Tour has embraced it. The golfing world has embraced it. And, you know, I was just another golfer. Yeah, I made a few 4-foot putts, maybe more than somebody else. But, you know, and maybe because of that put me in a little different category. But, you know, to have people accept that and embrace what we did has made me feel very, very special, and very, very, it humbles me that, you know, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the help you've given us.
All right, we'll go to Lauren on this side.
That answered your question? I'm sorry?
Lauren?
Newly named U.S. President's Cup team captain Brant Snedeker is playing on a sponsor's exemption.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Brant Snedeker,
Yep.
newly named President's Cup team captain, is playing on a sponsor's exemption this week. You have more captaincies than anyone. What's the biggest piece of advice you'd give Brant as he embarks on this next journey?
Oh, he'll enjoy it. I mean, of course, I always took captaincy a little differently than most people. I always took it to, you know, I had to make sure that I had plenty of tees and extra spikes for the shoes and towels and sunscreen. And, you know, I let them go play golf. That's sort of the way I did. I never tried to make a big strategy out of being a captain. I thought the captain was the guy who makes the speeches and gets out of the way. You know, the only thing I ever did was I got the guys and I said, okay, guys, at the start of the week, tell me who you'd like to play with, but also give me a list of who you don't want to play with. And so I honored that. And so That's basically all I did. I didn't do anything real special. I tried to get everybody playing time if I could, where it was possible. If a guy told me he didn't want to play and didn't feel he was playing well, then I honored that. I think Brad has to listen to them. He's gonna love it. He's gonna have a good guy. All the guys like him. He'll have some moments where, he'll say, "This is a tough decision." It's all right. That's what the captain's supposed to make. But he'll have a great time.
All right, let's go up in the back right. We'll go with Bob and then Alex behind him.
Hey, Jack. Two separate things. First, just to clarify, were you not aware until basically the rest of us that Roy wasn't coming?
I was sort of aware of it about the middle of last week.
And so it sort of surprises you, I guess, that he's not?
Yeah, it surprised me, but guys have got schedules and got things they do, and I haven't talked to him for him to tell me why or why not. That's just his call. I made a lot of calls that I had to make when I played, to play or not play, and sometimes it wasn't as popular as people thought it was. But sometimes you have to make those calls. I don't hold anything against Rory for that. He did what he likes to play. I know he likes to play so many in a row. He likes to play the week before a U.S. Open, and so that's what he's doing. So, I really don't have a comment on it. It's very difficult, very difficult. I mean, I'm a big Rory fan, always have been, and I'm sure that will remain that way. I was a little surprised, yes.
And then separately, last year, obviously the tournament was the week before the U.S. Open, and you told us in here, that you would prefer to have this week. How much lobbying did you do personally? I mean, was that a hard thing to get them to switch it back, or?
Wasn't easy. But part of it comes from our sponsor, Neil. I mean, Neil will tell you very simply, last year, we had the tournament 2 weeks before, the week before Memorial Day. To get his people here for the Pro-Am, his clients, he had about a 50% acceptance for his Pro-Am. Is that about right, Neil? About a 50% acceptance. This year, the week later, after the Memorial Tournament, virtually 100% acceptance. That's a big number for your sponsor. Your sponsor has to be happy with what he's doing and what's his part. He did not want that. He wanted it the week after the Memorial. We wanted it the week after the Memorial. We wanted it 2 weeks before the U.S. Open. That was what we felt was the right place to be. We've been there traditionally. The tour was trying to bunch things together, and we fought that. And finally, they agreed that we would do it this way. I think they agreed because of our sponsor, because of our history, because the name of our tournament, and I suppose I had a little bit to do with it. But
Jack, you had a lot to do with it.
Well, okay, but anyway, I think that you understand what I'm saying. I think the tour's quite happy with it. I don't think they're having an issue with it.
As far as I know.
No, I don't think so. I mean, once we got it scheduled and got it back, frankly, I think Canada preferred the week before the U.S. Open. And then it was a week. At least that's what they told us. Now, whether that is the truth or not, I don't know. But they said that from a weather standpoint for them, the week later was better for them, being up in Canada. So, I think, and they'll have a good tournament. They always do.
We go Alex in the back right there.
Yeah, Jack, two things. One, did you ever have your equipment tested or looked at by Joe Dye back in the day before a U.S. Open or anything like that?
No.
Pete Dye used to talk about how sometimes Joe would take people's irons and rub his hands over them and see if they were something that needed to be sanded down a little.
Who said that?
Pete Dye said that in a story.
Pete did?
Yep.
Okay. I've never heard that.
And then secondly, has there ever been a situation where you were so confident?
I love that, Alex.
Where you were so confident that when you walked on the grounds of a tournament, that there was no question in your mind that you were going to win that week?
What is the question? Was there?
Were you ever so confident?
No, I never was confident I was going to win any time. I never. If any time I walked on a place saying, "This is mine," you never win. You know, I've always tried to feel like I was climbing a mountain. I did that through most of my career while I was playing and was always trying to get better, always trying to improve, always trying to say that, you know, this is a hard mountain for me to climb. I got to really work hard to get myself ready and prepared for it. And as long as I got myself, you know, prepared and ready to play, and I gave it my best effort. I didn't always win, Alex, but I gave it my best effort. You know, I gave my best effort at Turnberry in '77. Watson just beat me. I gave my best effort at Pebble Beach in '82. Watson just beat me. Gave my best effort in a lot of tournaments. Somebody just beat me. But there are a lot of tournaments I gave my best effort, and nobody beat me. You know, but I think that the game of golf is usually 100 and some odd players that start a golf tournament, and when you're and I've always taken the philosophy. Maybe I just said that. The philosophy, as long as I'm prepared, as long as I do, then, you know, well done. I mean, Barbara knows at Oklahoma City in, I think it's '87, I think we played the PGA Championship, and for some reason, I really wasn't ready to play golf, and I didn't prepare very well. And and I got exactly what I deserved. I missed the cut. The only thing bad about missing the cut, and when I was working for ABC at the time, and I had to go stay around for the weekend and announce and talk about the other guys. Just what I didn't want. You just don't want to do. So anyway, that Friday night after I missed the cut, Barbara went to McDonald's with my son Michael for dinner, and they came home the next morning. I had a little glass of orange juice in front of me in a sippy cup that she got from McDonald's, and it said, "There is no excuse for not being properly prepared." She was right. Absolutely. Still got that sippy cup, incidentally. Yeah, because there isn't any excuse. As long as you go out and you make an effort, and you make your effort to be the best you can be, and you give it your best effort, then you have nothing to be ashamed of. You just might get beat, and you might win.
All right. Todd, we'll come to you next.
Hey, Jack, you've always been great with the media, but there have been instances so far, or in this season, I should say, where some players has opted not to talk to the media for several different reasons. Most recently, Rory at the PGA Championship when he didn't talk at all. Do you feel stars have a responsibility to talk to the media, which is a vessel to the fans?
Well, I'm not going to talk for Rory or anybody else. I'll talk for myself. I've always felt that you guys have a job to do, and gals, and that for you to do your job, you need to talk to me. And whether I played well or whether I played poorly, if you still want to talk to me, I'll talk to you. And I always have.
All right, we'll go to Adam in the front.
Jack, you've done a lot of work on this course over the years. Do you feel like with the way the ball's going that it's ready to stand the test of time for another 50 years?
As long as the golf ball doesn't change too much. You know, I think that this golf course, when and if they ever enact their new golf ball, it will only help this golf course. I guess they pushed it back 2 more years, did they? They pushed it back from what, 26 to 28? I don't follow it as much as I used to follow it. But they pushed the ball back, and as I understand, the ball is about 14 yards shorter for the longest of hitters out here, maybe 2 or 3 yards shorter for the average golfer. I think that only will help sort of put a line in the sand. Hopefully the line doesn't go anywhere. I mean, we just can't keep buying land. I mean, you know, you can't